Welcome to the Sip and Say It podcast with your host, Carlos, a.k.a. Los, a podcast that promises to deliver a raw and unfiltered experience as we dive into the one-on-one conversations about a wide array of topics. We're inviting listeners to engage in candid discussions, personal stories, and diverse perspectives. Say what's on your minds. Let's create an open space for honest dialogue. As a village, let's immerse ourselves on trending issues, personal anecdotes, thought-provoking themes. Nothing is off limits. Tune in and become part of the conversations. Let's sip and say it together.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Sip and Say It, your favorite podcast. This is Kevin, a.k.a. Kev, with your host, Los.
Hey. What's up, people? So, Kev, what we doing today, man?
Well, I'll tell you in a second, but we haven't talked about the sipping part since episode 1. So I put a picture on our Instagram, or a be on Instagram. Today, we have something called Cocalero, Resident Evil Death Island Picante.
What's that, a liqueur?
It is an herbal liqueur from South America.
Interesting. It sounds scary already with the Resident Evil. I mean, we are in Halloween, right?
True. And if you look at the color, it is very dark, almost like a shot of blood. So,
almost like coffee, too, it looks like.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you say, bro? Did we just take a sip and start saying it?
Yeah. Hey, salud.
Salud. Okay, here we go.
Good taste. I kind of expected something different, but it's
not bad, actually.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
No.
I'm going to finish this because it's actually kind of good.
You definitely taste the liqueur. There's a little spice to it.
What I'm afraid of is that it's going to sneak up on us.
Well, you do say once you get some of that joy juice or that liquid truth, things do come out, right?
This is true. But today, since we are tackling a certain topic, which before I do, we need to put ourselves in a special place. So I kind of want to go to Loveland, if you don't mind.
Sure, why not? I think we're here.
Oh, yeah, look. There's a heart over there. We are in Loveland. So today I wanted to talk about the 5 love languages.
Interesting. You know what? I think several years ago, I kind of was introduced to that by my significant other. And you actually find some very interesting stuff about yourself.
This is true. It does make you take a closer look at maybe what your love language is versus your partner's. But before we get too far into that, we need to really talk about what the love languages are for those people that don't know what they are and haven't been introduced to these concepts.
And if I'm right, is that Dr. Gary Chapman, I think is his name. Is that guy?
Yep, Dr. Gary Chapman, yes. So if you've ever been through counseling or done some type of marital thing or relationship thing at a church or anything like that, that book comes up a lot. Some places even make it required reading. Regardless if you've come across it or not, it is about how to strengthen your relationship with somebody else by knowing the language they speak. Doesn't necessarily have to be a romantic relationship.
Okay.
You can apply this to any type of relationship. So I'm going to quickly go over what the 5 are, and then we'll take a deep dive into them.
Yeah, let's go.
So the 5 love languages are words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch.
Interesting. Because I'm sure we could all relate to some of that stuff. I guess it's just a matter of when you get the opportunity to take the actual test, and it gives you kind of your, what would you kind of say, your DNA of your love language, right?
Yeah.
Then you see what really sticks out the most to you. What based on your responses, it kind of gives you a little bit of what kind of person you are when it comes to your love language. So tell me about words of affirmation.
Sure. So words of affirmation are basically expressing love through spoken or written words,
Mm,
such as compliments, words of appreciation, verbal encouragement. And those things have different applications. Like, can you tell me what type of applications you think you would have?
I mean, listen, I would probably say regularly tell your partner what you love about them, right? Leave sweet notes or send thoughtful texts, right? Like, I think that I'm almost just sitting here thinking a little bit when we talked about, our previous episodes about, love and geez, I almost forgot the name of our last episode.
We're talking about ambition and love, right?
Ambition and love, yeah. It's kind of like it's things that we touched during those episodes that kind of reflect some of these things, right? Of as easy as leave a sweet note and that thoughtful text. I think I was one that I mentioned something specifically that when my significant other sends me a text to say, "How are you?" or "How's your day?" Like that just to me, you're opening the door. You're trying to find out how I am, how I feel. You're concerned about me,
Yeah, that
and,
does feel good.
and of
Yeah.
course, I'm going to dive right into that. Absolutely dive into that. But you know, regularly talking to your partner to tell them how you feel about them, as easy as being proud of them, of what they do, not only for themselves in the career, but what they do for the family, what they do as your significant other, the sacrifices they make to assure, you know, things are possible for the entire family. Like that feels good to be acknowledged.
Hmm.
And those powerful words, man, really, I think to me, refuel you, right? Like if your gas is down, those words of affirmation
Yeah.
kind of gas you back up again.
Yeah. Getting that word of encouragement or affirmation from somebody right at your low point
Mm-hmm.
just changes your outlook, changes your whole day. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
So dive into number 2, man.
All right. So number two is acts of service. And that's showing love by doing things for your partner. This could be anything from like household chores to running errands. We want to talk about any applications we can do with that?
Yeah, listen, man. It's helpful to take on some tasks, right, without even being asked about it, right? Cook a meal or take care of something your partner finds stressful, right? I think I love cooking. I love getting down in the kitchen, man. And anytime my wife comes up from work and I have the opportunity for it, and I feel it in my bones. I want to see a smile on her face. I know getting down in the kitchen and cooking some good hearty meals, man. That puts a smile on her face. And I know if I put a smile on her face, she feels good. She feels relaxed. That's to me. That's me telling her how much I appreciate her, how much I love her, and how much I want to thank her for who she is. Right. Um, Taking the opportunity, vice versa. Let's say she cooked. Um, then I'll flip it around and at least be the one to sit there and let me do the dishes. Right. I know there's one ultimate thing that she appreciates, and there's one I know she's coming back from a work situation that she had to be away for a little bit, and she comes home. That I assure that when she's walking through that door, that the house is immaculate, smells good,
Hmm.
right? There's things that she may have thrown into the laundry basket, and I've taken the opportunity to go ahead, wash, dry, fold, and have it ready for her. I know that's appreciated. So those acts of service, and it could be anything, man. It could even be as simple as when we walk out the door and we're going somewhere that you stop as a man, as a gentleman, and open that door,
Hmm.
getting into the car.
That art is lost.
It is. It is. It's that, and listen, I'm going to say that there's times that I'm guilty of it because your mind's all over the place. But is you got to act in the moment that pops into your head to say, I appreciate her, or I should be demonstrating something to her that she's also going to appreciate. And as simple as opening the door for her to get into the vehicle and close the door right behind her, that you're saying you appreciate her, you love her, and you respect her, right?
Yeah, that's super important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me dive into number 3 for us. Receiving gifts, right? So that's an interesting one because some people don't like gifts. Some people love gifts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's giving thoughtful gifts that show you were really thinking about your partner. And it's not all about the cost, but the thought behind it,
Wow.
right? What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. You surprise your partner with, with small, meaningful gifts,
Just because.
just because you were thinking of them, right? You're walking. Let's say you're out at the mall with them one day, and you notice they're looking at something, but they don't say anything to you. But you notice they pick it up, they handle it, they look at the price tag, they put it back, and they leave. And then you're at the mall by yourself for a reason, and you see that same item, and it clicks, and you remember, like, oh, she was really looking at that, and you buy it for her, not, because you were thinking of her. And that does show a lot that you were thinking about the person. You were doing something thoughtful. You didn't just buy something because it was super expensive to say, hey, look how much I spent on you. But you
Mhm.
put thought into something that they liked, no matter what the cost. Even if you were out, you go out away on a business trip, you bring back a little souvenir to let them know you were thinking of them.
Absolutely. And I'll give you an example of one that I try to do once in a while. And yeah, I think I'm guilty. I should try it more often. But it's the thought of even from a distance, you send flowers
Mm-hmm.
to their job,
Right.
um, to a location where you know they're going to be at,
Mm-hmm.
for some time. It's the message that you're sending that once again, it's thoughtful. It is a gift, but you're saying, I love you.
And I'm thinking of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about number 4.
All right. Number 4 is quality time.
Oh, we talked about this.
We have. So it keeps coming up.
Mhm.
So it must be important. So it's about spending meaningful time together and giving your partner your undivided attention.
Oh, we definitely talked about that, man.
Put the phone down, close the laptop, and just spend that time with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, take that moment. I'm always going to be the first person to put myself out there as the example is. It could be even as simple as I got to do returns to Amazon or Kohl's. I got to go to the mall. I like to see this, and you make that conscious decision to say, this is what she wants. This is what she's looking for my time. She wants my input going out, how she looks and clothes that she may try on. That's quality time.
Mm-hmm.
Quality time could also be as easy as just hunkering down at home, throwing on Netflix and binging on a series
All right.
and shutting down all the noise from the outside. And there's times I've gotten phone calls and I've just responded, busy right now. And that is just my way of telling her that unless it's an emergency, my mom, my children, and they'll let me know if it would, but that everything else could hold while I'm giving her the undivided attention.
Mm-hmm.
And that quality time is huge. And I think we spoke about this and doing or having quality time. It's a matter of like planning a date, a dinner date, a movie date, taking a walk around some of these towns that have all these local restaurants and stores to take a walk, enjoy. Like right now, we're into the fall season, right? Engage in activities that you both enjoy, right? Like it's simply spending time talking with each other without no distractions,
Yeah.
right? And again, when you give that significant other that undivided time, that attention, you create something in them that eventually they reciprocate back to you. And
True.
at least that's hope. The hope is that that's what happens, right? If you got a good, solid relationship and both sides know to, be articulate, communicate with each other. Um, again, use some words of affirmation, acts of service. Again, thoughtful gifts help. You creating that quality time, man, that just takes us to number 5, right, Kev?
Yeah. And I actually want to come back to what you said after number 5.
Mm-hmm.
But number 5 is physical touch. Now, everybody, let's, keep this a PG rated show. When we say physical touch, we're talking about expressing love through contact. And this can range from holding hands to hugs and kisses to, yes, what you're all thinking at home.
Yeah, nightcap. But yeah, Kev, I'm one of those guys that I love holding hands, and I love that random kiss. And to me, I know some people are like, those are moments in private. But if you're confident in who you have and who you love, I think as long as you're not doing anything unethical or rated X, holding hands and a great kiss or a hug, those are keys of that physical touch of saying, I love you. I love what I have. I love the person who I'm with. Right. You get to cuddle more often. You get, again, the quality time leads to physical touch. And that is, again, like I described, binging at home, a Netflix series where you guys are side by side each other under that blanket, just enjoying both of your company, your heat, your kiss. It is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And then there's moments that, you know, nature takes its course.
That's how it's supposed to work, right?
Yeah, nature takes its course.
Now, to get back to all this, I want everybody to get close to their speaker because we talked about the 5 love languages, but what I'm about to say is very important. Just because there are 5 love languages, it does not mean they work for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The language that you speak as far as a love language is not necessarily the language that your partner speaks as a love language. So you can be speaking a love language that your partner hates.
Mm-hmm.
And that does neither one of you any good.
Mm-hmm.
Just leads to frustration because you're doing your job. At least you feel like you're expressing your love. Your partner doesn't feel like you're expressing any love because you two are speaking different languages. So the important thing is to know which love language is your partner's love language, what resonates most with your partner. So then the question becomes, how do you identify the love language of your partner? You want to tackle that?
Yeah, I think one of the most natural things to do is just to observe their behavior, right? I mean, you know what makes them kind of tick, right? You want to notice how your partner expresses love to you and others. And people often give love in a way that they prefer to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're observant of that and you're paying attention to how they carry themselves, and I listen, I'm using myself. I'm one that always expresses that what's my love language? And I could tell you when I look back a little bit as to my love language, those words of affirmation, absolutely the quality time, excuse me, then eventually segues into physical touch. I'm not too much of a person of receiving gifts. I believe that may be like my bottom one at this point. But you got to observe your partner's behavior. That says a lot. And if you're observant, then you know how to strategically move. If you're sincerely trying to figure out your person's love language, I think it starts with just watching them.
Yeah.
Watching them.
Yeah, true. Well, before I go on with how I do it, I'm going to take some more of this cocalero or picante because it's kind of good.
You know what, Kev? I'm going to join you.
And when you take it for the second time, slowly, you actually start feeling it on your tongue.
Huh.
So
Are we going to say that the picante kind of like gives it a little bit of a...
Yeah, you start feeling it on your tongue in the back of your throat.
Taste buds, okay.
So now that I took that shot, we talked about observing their behavior, but the other thing we need to do is actually listen to their complaints. Because a lot of time, if you pay attention to what your partner complains about, they're actually trying to tell you what they're missing or they feel is missing in the relationship.
Kev, I think we're circling back around again. That's that other episode again.
Yeah, see how it all ties together.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, listening to their complaints. So I think I've heard people say this. They often say, "You never spend any time with me."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
So what would that say to you?
Say again?
So what would that say to you that their language might be?
Quality time.
Quality time.
Yeah,
right.
they're asking for it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Or you never take out the trash.
Oof.
Right? That'd be an act of service. We wouldn't think about it. We just like, oh, she's on me about taking out the trash. But that's not what she's on you about, really. She's kind of saying that acts of service are her thing or his thing. And yeah, so you need to pay attention to their complaints.
And listen, let's don't you guys out there think that you guys don't complain. I complain. Again, I'm always going to be the first one to jump into the mix. There's moments that I complain, but I'm also cognizant of who my person is. Whether it was a long day, they were busy and doing multiple things, multitasking. I get that. I get it. But when we do have those moments, I don't go out to the point of I'm complaining like I'm whining. I would complain in the sense of, hey, hon, we need some time. Like, let's take a trip. Let's go do something. Or listen, I'm not going in the kitchen. I don't want you to go to the kitchen. Why don't we do this? Let's get ourselves ready 5:30, and let's go take that ride. Right? Again, it's just I want to get to a point where my significant other knows that I'm, again, always looking for ways to satisfy her quality time, the acts of service, those words of affirmation. And I know she's a person that loves receiving gifts. But I'm also not only observant of her actions, but I listen to certain things down the line. Like, I know I'm probably getting beat up right now because I haven't taken a trip down to where she's at right now.
Right.
And I should. I should do it more often. And again, I feel like I'm going back to that previous episode about love and ambitions, that I'm putting the job,
right.
first.
First, right.
And thinking of the things and phone calls that were becoming, to me, instead of just shutting it down and concentrating on her. So, I don't put her in a position to complain about me. So, again, put myself on Front Street. I got to do better.
Okay. So let's say you have a partner that doesn't really complain to you. So how else do you think you could identify what their love language might be?
Damn, Kev, you know what? The first thing that pops into my mind is just, you got to ask them directly, right?
Hey, we talked about communication. Imagine that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, man. You have that open conversation about the love languages. Not, and don't veer away from it. You know, I can understand probably some of us men sometimes don't want to do deep dives in that stuff, but these are things that are important in a relationship, important to your significant other, where you could both take that love language quiz that's available online to identify your primary love language, right?
Hmm.
And there's an example of it, right? I read about the 5 love languages, thought it might be fun for us to take the quiz together. Boom, and you guys do it. So, I mean, you got to ask directly what do they believe their love language is, and then take that journey, right? Take that journey into, let's figure it out, babe. Let's see what your love language is. Let's see what mine is. Let's compare it. And now you both know each other. What makes you tick?
Yeah,
And you get to better understand each other, don't you think?
yeah, yeah, definitely. Um, so I'm going to say that we can do all that, but sometimes there are some people that just are hard to read, right? They're hard to read, and you ask them directly, and they're like, you know what? I don't know, babe. I don't know what my love language is. So then I think the only thing you have left, or one of the options you have left at that point, is maybe try experimenting with different languages. Try expressing your love in different ways and observe your partner's reactions. See which of your actions make them feel more appreciated or most appreciated and happy.
You know what? I'm not going to say that I'm going to debate that. I think being experimental, being winging it, meaning just like diving into that stuff, like it is fun, but I'm always going to go say, and I'll say it right now, jump and taking that online quiz, man, that tells you a lot. Um, but I get what you're saying by experimenting with different love languages, right? I mean, you could try by the small gift that you could go ahead and do. Set up some uninterrupted time together. Like the first thing I was just thinking about that. Man, how about a couples massage?
Mm-hmm.
To sit back and just enjoy. That is quality time.
Right.
You're spending it together. You're saying I love you because I want you healthy. I want you relaxed. I want you to get all those things off your mind, but I'm doing it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And man, how much more, I guess, in a sense, almost intimate that could be, that you
Well,
guys are sharing a moment.
yeah, and if you think about that, you just knocked out 3 languages in one shot, bro.
Mm.
You did a gift, you did quality time, and you're doing touch because you're holding hands while you're getting your massage.
Hmm. And I think that'll segue into another way how to handle certain situations, right? Is to reflect on their requests. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes we have to just, like we've said before, listen. Listen for what our partner asks the most, because those requests can basically be clues to what their love language is. If they're asking all the time to hug or hold hands, I'm thinking physical touch is their love language.
Yeah, I'm again throwing myself on Jump Street. I'm that guy. As I'm driving, I don't know about you guys. Like I love to extend my hand over and hold their hand as I'm driving. Now, obviously in a safe way, but to hold hands, that is just again a moment that it's peaceful in the car. You're letting them know I'm thinking about you. I want you close. I love you. Making sure you're safe. And let's enjoy our ride to wherever we're going to.
This is true. So I think those are good ways for us to actually learn about what our partner's love languages are, and understanding and speaking their love language. It's going to help us connect on a deeper level and make both of us or both of you feel loved and valued. So as you think about this, Have you noticed any particular ways your partner tends to express or request love? Just a question for you to ponder on after
Mm.
this podcast.
Yeah, people, like, I'm going to even tell you after this podcast, I love to see some of the things that you guys get to say. Again, always remember you can send us an email and I'll lay that out at the end. But we want to hear about what you guys, what you guys feel about this, right? And just like Kev is talking about, like, what is my partner's love language? Is it different than mine? Right? So at what point do you identify that, right? And what strategies are you going to put in place to help you navigate or even embrace these differences, right?
Yeah, and that all that leads back to what we've been talking about for a couple episodes now, which basically, to me, the first thing is communicate openly. You got to discuss your love languages with each other because understanding each other's preferences are going to help you both feel more appreciated and loved.
So I guess, I mean, in a situation like that, again, communicating to her, like, I'm going to say, I feel most loved when you spend quality time with me. Whatever that is, how you do it, but you're spending the time with me, right? So how do you feel most loved? And that's the question that you need to extend over to them at that moment so you can understand where they're at, so you can meet them where they're at, right?
Mm-hmm. True. And then try practicing empathy. You got to make that effort to understand and speak your partner's love language, even if it doesn't come naturally to you. Because let's be fair. Acts of service may not be your thing. You may not ever think about taking the trash now, and that's not because you don't love your partner. It just isn't something that clicks in you. So you got to be able to understand what their language is and practice it, put into practice, even if it doesn't come naturally.
So I mean, just to segue, I think that follows right behind that. You got to do some compromises and find that balance, right? So when you find that balance, both of your love languages are acknowledged and fulfilled, right? That might mean just altering between different expressions of love. Don't you agree?
I agree. I absolutely agree. Like, we talked about this before. Put something in your calendar. Plan a date night. Um, Leave a little note in their lunch container or whatever it is. If they're going on a business trip, put a note in their suitcase. I mean, how wonderful is that when they get somewhere, or if you get somewhere, you open your suitcase and there's a little love note in it.
hmm You know what? It's funny that you brought that up. Is my refrigerator? I have one of those. It's almost like these magnet kind of style writing boards that you could eventually, I guess it's like some electrical impulses, and then it kind of clears your
Hmm.
your. So sometimes I put a giant heart, when she's there, and thank her for being there, right? Or get ready for breakfast tomorrow. I mean, like, those are things that, again, I love doing. It's just all part of me expressing my affection, my love for who she is. So, and as we move forward on the things, right, got to learn how to be patient and consistent. Again, we're reflecting back to that other episode that I think these are topics that we did touch, right? It might take some time to get used to expressing that love in a new way, but you got to be consistent. Consistency is the key. Those efforts will show your partner that you care, and you know, this is just not a moment for just a moment kind of a thing. This is, I I think this is serious. I think you are it. I want to continue to build with you. Those are things that you're saying by being patient and consistent, and finding those ways of expressing that love. Um, you know, it takes regular practice, um, to understand your partner's love language and make them feel more natural over time, right? You got to understand it. You got to embrace it. You got to stay consistent to it, and then it all becomes natural. And you got to also know that while you're doing these things, you're teaching. You're teaching them about you And the hope is if they do understand and they care and are inquisitive of your love language, they're they're going to reciprocate. They're absolutely going to reciprocate.
Yeah. And we, put all into practice, and then of course we have to, with anything, when we do something, the only way that we really know we're doing it correctly is we need to seek feedback.
Mm.
All right. We have to ask our partner how they feel about the efforts we're making. If there's anything more is there anything more I can do to make you feel more loved? I could say, for example, I've been trying to show my love through acts of service. Is there anything I can do to make you feel more appreciated? And then be receptive to what they have to say.
You know what? I think some people they're scared to ask for feedback.
Yeah.
They're really scared to ask about feedback, and I think that's an important part in this entire process. It's a learning process for both sides of the house. So you can't go in there thinking you're Mr. Rico Suave and she's the ultimate Barbie and she has it figured out. He has it figured out, Mr. Don Juan. No, you got to communicate with each other. And you got to see what you did wrong, what you did right. You got to ask for that feedback to know if you're hitting the mark, right? You got to hit the mark.
Yeah, you just said something that unfortunately, I think I could still cancel my business cards because I had new business cards coming that say Rico Suave, but at this point, I guess I have to send them back.
Hold up, Kev's going back to. Let me bring him back.
Oh, I'm back in Loveland. All right, how's everybody doing?
Okay. So listen, let's go into segue of just learning how to celebrate these differences, embrace the diversity in the relationship. Different love languages can add richness and complete depth to your. I pronounced that wrong. Depth to your connection,
yeah,
right?
That's the Cocalero speaking right now.
I think
yes.
It's starting to make me slur a little bit, but let me stop joking around. But no, it gives you the opportunity to connect a little bit more. Again, I'm going to recommend for people to look up Dr. Gary Chapman, and there is the love language quiz that you could take, so you could eventually know what are your, in order, what is your love language, right? So I think to move forward on this, right? How can we improve communication about our love language, right? So improving communication about our love language can deepen your connection, right? And ensure that both partners feel valued and understood, right?
True.
So then let's talk about that. What kind of steps can we dive into?
So, I think with anything in life, if we want to do better and we want to learn about something on how to do better in it, we got to educate ourselves, right?
Mm.
But we want to do it together because it's no good if only one partner is educating themselves and then the other person is indifferent to it. So, like you said, read about the 5 love languages or go watch, videos together. I'm sure you can go on YouTube and find videos about this stuff. Just watch them together so you can understand that concept better. And then that shared experience is going to open up discussions.
And I think, again, I know I mentioned it, it's taking that quiz. Both of you can take the love language quiz to identify your primary love language, right? Share your results and discuss what they mean to each other, to you and mean to them, right? Like you guys could exchange that and figure out what is that person's number one love language. And I guarantee you, the more that you get to master that and you know it, the better things become.
True. And then I am going to say my one controversial statement during this podcast. I believe that relationships are a living organism. And the way that you go to the doctor to get a checkup, your relationship, you need to do a regular check-in. You need to schedule regular times to talk about how you're feeling in a relationship and whether your love languages are being met. Doesn't have to be a long thing, but just do a regular check-in.
That's being real with each other.
Yeah. How have you felt loved this week? Am I failing anywhere? Is there anything I can do better?
Some people would probably say this is some kind of fairy tale stuff, but it works, people. It absolutely works. You just got to give it a shot, take that quiz, and see each other's love languages. Do exactly what Kev said about doing your regular check-ins, because you got to make sure that you're doing it right. Like you're making the mark with your person, right? And I think that segues into being open and honest, right? You got to encourage that openness and honesty, that communication about your needs and preferences. You got to let your partner know what makes you feel loved and appreciated, right? You got to be able to say, I really appreciate it when you leave me little notes. It makes my day. It may sound cheesy to some people, but for some people at the end of the day, what a surprise it is that you open up your bag and there is a little note to say, as you eat today, just know I'm thinking of you.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Yeah. And something that we talk a lot about communication, but there's also another art to communication that a lot of people forget about, and that's practicing active listening.
Mm.
Right? When we're discussing love languages, listen actively to your partner without interrupting. Show empathy, understanding, let them finish what they're saying. An example would be, I hear that you feel most loved when we spend quality time together. I'll make sure to prioritize that.
Yeah, and you know what? By you saying that of listening, you're also demonstrating respect.
True.
You're not cutting them off. As much as this old saying, we listen instead of listening to listen, we listen to respond. Again, that's another point that we talked previously. We got a practice of just trying to listen, being patient to listen to what makes your significant other really tick, right? Like, and prioritize that. Make it a point to demonstrate to them that you paid attention, you heard them,
Mm-hmm.
and you're willing to make the sacrifice to meet them where they're at, right? And I think that with doing those things, it takes us to our next spot of just expressing appreciation, right? You're acknowledging and appreciating your partner's efforts to speak your love language or their love language. It's all part of positive reinforcement, right? It continues. You continue the effort. But I guess the word that I'm looking for, it encourages the continuation
Mm-hmm.
of those efforts.
Yeah.
So let's go right to the next one, so we could try to go close this up, man. Because this is a good one. I like this. This has been a good conversation.
It helps when we're in love land, brother.
Whoa, hold up.
Wow, we're like triple love land now. I'm
Yeah.
feeling good. All right. So, we finally get to the last thing, which in all things, when it comes to relationships, be patient and flexible. You got to understand that it's going to take time to fully integrate each other's love languages into your daily lives. Be patient and flexible as you both learn and grow. Because we may be speaking a language, like we said before, that is not native to us. So we have to be patient with each other. All these other things we talked about will lead our partner to understand that we're making an effort. And then they will be patient when we forget or if we mess up, because it is something that we're going to be working on for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, you know what, Kevin, and I guess to close it up, man, there's a part of me that I should say this because it is sometimes as us men, sometimes we're such cavemen and think that we have it figured out, and we don't, and become hard-headed and don't have the patience and don't attempt to be flexible. And we need to bring it down a notch a little bit to meet our significant others where they're at, and then cooperate, collaborate, and then be willing to get to know your significant others love language. And as you embark down that road, you're going to get to learn more and more how you guys connect. And by understanding each other's love language, you're only going to continue to enhance that relationship. And if you guys are blessed enough to take it to the next level, then you're taking it to the next level. But it doesn't stop there, man. Just because eventually you propose, the ring, the wedding, relationships take time. Relationships takes effort from both sides of the house to continue to do what needs to be done for longevity. You know, it's the moment, again, like our previous episode, that we got to be cognizant of continuing these things, because the outside world, the noise from the outside will pull you away, and you're going to lose touch of what's much more important. And there's those things at home, your significant other, what makes them tick, your children, your household. There's times that we need reminders of what are the things that make our world go round, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, by incorporating some of these strategies, the hope is that you could foster a more loving, communicative relationship. You have to try some of these approaches. And more importantly, there's one you're particularly interested in. At least, look, I'm about to sound like I'm going somewhere else with this, but you got to figure out a way which one interests you the most, right? And what's much more interesting to your significant other. So take the opportunity, look up Dr. Gary Champman, go online, take the quiz for your love languages. And in closing, Kev, you got anything?
Yeah, so basically we could try all these things like we said, but sometimes we need a translator, right? And that's where we've said it before, you know, big proponent of therapy. So there's therapy for all kinds of things. Sometimes there is a relationship therapist is needed. But you won't know that until you both go through the quizzes and you try to learn each other's languages. And then sometimes you just don't understand what each other's languages are, and you need a third party to help you with that.
Can't be scared.
Can't be scared.
Yeah, definitely. So, folks, listen, without a shadow of doubt, I want to thank you for joining us on this segment, this episode of the 5 love languages. And how can you get the opportunity to learn what your significant other's love language is, right? So as always, man, thank you for joining us at Sip and Say It. We'd love to hear about you or what you want to comment about this episode. Feel free to send us emails at sipandsayitpodcast@gmail.com. What's the other one, Kev?
info@sipandsayit.com.
Yeah, and at the same token, when you guys get the opportunity, depending on the platform, specifically, you know, for us is our Spotify platform, there's a section there for comments. Feel free to comment. Tell us what you think about it. Tell us what other things you want to know about. You know, we want to journey with you anytime we can. And we're going to do that, having some real talk one step at a time. Folks, thank you as always.
We appreciate you.
And we'll see you on the next go-around. Peace.
Out.
On behalf of your host, Los, thank you for joining us this week on Sip and Say It. Without you, the village, and the participation on Sip and Say It, the universe will never know what's on your mind. Subscribe to Sip and Say It on media platforms like Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, and our very own Facebook page at Sip and Say It. Email us with your thoughts about the episode or topics you'd like to hear to be discussed at sipandsayitpodcast@gmail.com. Tune in next for our next episode. We can sip and say it together.